there, my name's Jill Tiny. I'm from Collaboration Global, and this is our podcast, Being Human, Hidden Depths. I'm going to be interviewing some of our members from Collaboration Global, and they're going to be sharing with you their extraordinary lives. Although they would probably believe they're just normal, everyday, average humans, but they are extraordinary. A bit like you and me. We all have our story to tell. We've all been through difficult times, and we've come out the other end having learned an extraordinary amount about ourselves that we can share with others. So I think you'll find lots of things that will resonate with where you've been in your journey as well. I look forward to seeing you on the other side. Hello and welcome to Being Human, Hidden Depths, the podcast by Collaboration Global. My name is Jill Tiny, the founder of Collaboration Global, and I'm delighted to welcome to this particular episode one of our newest members, Andrea Moulding. Welcome, Andrea. Lovely to have you with us today.
Well, thank you for inviting me, Jill.
You're very welcome. We've actually been having a giggle before we even start. Andrea's got so much that she's packed into her life. And she's got such a wonderful view on how it pans out. I think you're going to love this conversation coming along. So I'm really looking forward to having a chat with you today, my love, to unpack all the wonderful things that are who you are, Andrea Moulding. First and foremost, you're a bit like me in that you've got a surname that's probably a little bit challenging. Were you teased when you were at school like I was?
Yeah, horrendously. My surname's Moulding. From the age of 4 to now, I've always been called Mouldy or Mouldy Cheese. And then when I met my friend Pauline, she actually said, "Oh, hello, you're friends with Caroline, aren't you? You must be Mildew." And I'm like,
close.
So no, I totally own it now, and you know, what can you do? You've just got to, haven't you?
Well, I was brought up at a time when Tiny Tears was in the charts, and Tiny Tim was in the charts, and Tiny Tears was the doll that every child wanted. So I was teased mercilessly, but I just didn't worry me, you know. My sister, 5 years older, used to come home crying every day because somebody had called her Tiny Tim, and I'm like, it's just a name. What's your problem? And at the end, by the time I was in senior school, you go through the register and nobody could ever pronounce the name. So they're going, Julian, Tinny. And other people in the class will go, it's Tiny, can't you spell, miss? Because it's got an E, it's Tiney. And they're, oh, okay, sorry, beg your pardon. Well, who is Julian Tiny? And I'm like, it's me at the back here. So I didn't even have to defend myself because I'd said it so many times that my mates would just jump in for me. And so yeah. I got used to it. But then at the age of 21, I got married and became Mrs. Brown. And everyone expected, I was expecting somebody so much older. Yeah, it sounds like you're sort of fat and 50 and you're frumpy and, you know. So when I started my own business, I said to my husband, do you mind if I go back to my maiden name? Because no one can forget me because they have to spell it, they have to learn how to pronounce it, and it's to do with being short. Yeah, we get the joke, it's funny. Not funny. So when I saw your name, I thought, I bet you've gone through some of the hassle that I had to go through when I was young.
Yeah, absolutely, without doubt.
But it's, you know, it's what makes you, isn't it? All these things that happen throughout your childhood, you look back and you go, you know, what don't kill you make you stronger, as the saying goes. So what attracted you to Collaboration Global? You've been playing around in various places on the platform, in the academy, and obviously in our clubhouse sessions that we have on a Friday morning. What's the sort of thing that you would say to somebody who is thinking about coming along? What's the one thing that stands out to you?
Sorry, I think it's more than one thing. About the dogs in the background. It's about the people really and their values, I think. You know, I'm attracted to people who are creative, but their inner core is about helping other people. Sorry about the dogs.
Don't worry about him. There's a lot of dog lovers on this call. It's fine.
Yeah. So basically, it's really about wanting to make the world a better place, which I know sounds incredibly trite, but I do think that people have got that mindset. You know, they're the sorts of people I want to be connected to. I want somewhere that is that stretches you, but in a very kind of safe way, if you know what I mean. So that's really what I think I found with Collaboration Global.
Brilliant. You've only just started. That's fantastic. Because it is this, as you say, we stretching in not in a challenging sort of harsh, come on now, let's get on with it, but from a point of view of you're in a safe space, so you can try stuff out and you can, stretch out that little comfort zone and see how far you can go. And that's one of the things I like, is when I see people grow. And I'm sure if we come back to this in 6 months' time and reflect on our conversation today, you're going to be this other woman that goes, oh, I can't remember I used to say that. Was that me? Not that I'm saying that everything isn't perfect exactly as you are, but this is how I see people over the years sort of tweaking and changing. We had one guy, I've said this many times, Simon Thomas came when he first arrived and he joined. And he was there for sort of 6 months, month in, month out, and go, I don't know why I'm here, but I like it. I don't know what I'm going to get out of this, but it's really nice. And I don't know why I've turned up again, but it's really good energy. And after about 6 months, he went, oh, I think I get it now. And we went, brilliant, but you haven't got it. Well, you'll be fine, you'll get it. And eventually, he's kind of like, he's been a member now for 4 or 5 years, but his left brain analytical side was constantly trying to make sense of it, and what the it was is the love that was in the room and the power that love can have. And while he was going, well, how do I make money out of this, that was part of his conversation. But when he let go of that, money, he has had clients and people that he's worked with, and he has made money out of the community, but not in that way that you make money out of a networking organization or something. So it's really funny that he calls us his woo-woo family, which I quite like. Because we're talking about love and stuff, which is lovely.
Yeah.
So let's take you back, Andrea. I'll stop talking now. Let's find out more about you. You've obviously tackled the bullies, the younger, when you were having your mildew, taking the Mickey out of your name. What else happened to you as a youngster? Tell us about, are you a sister? Or you got brothers? What's your family? Tell us a little background about yourself. What's the 8-year-old Andrea? What did she want to do when she grew up?
Well, I wanted to be a football player.
Did you?
Yeah, I was always labelled a tomboy at school. I loved climbing trees and playing football. And I had an older sister who used to have one of those ghastly dolls that you do their hair, plastic heads.
Yes.
And she liked doing its hair. And I had Action Men. And then I had a much younger brother who's 6 years younger than me. So I was saying to my dad and mum, I'm like the middle child, but I'm not only the middle child, I'm the second girl, and the younger child is not only so much younger, and the baby's actually a boy. So it's a joke in our family that I'm like the middle child. But I mean, I think as an 8-year-old, I was very happy. We moved from Brighton to Suffolk, and I really liked primary school. I think middle school is when you notice that kids are different. So I'd come from my parents. I was born in London, and I moved down to Suffolk, and I didn't have a Suffolk accent, and it didn't really matter at primary school. But at middle school, you spend your whole life trying to fit in. When you're a kid, you try and fit in, don't you? And I think also this is something I've spent all my life trying to shed, I think. But certainly when I was at upper school, which was a really large comprehensive school, I was diagnosed with scoliosis. So, which, if you don't know what it is, it's curvature of the spine, and it was quite severe. So I had to go and have like a massive operation, and then I had to wear this great big plaster cast for a year.
Wow.
But I couldn't wear school uniform because it was up, for those of you, it was up on my shoulders. So I had to wear, I don't know if you remember those hilarious Indian dresses that were really fashionable in the kind of late 70s. But it was the only thing I could get over my cast. And so, I stood out. I stood out anyway because I had this ridiculous plaster cast on. And then I was talking to someone the other day, and I said the worst experience of my upper school was when I was in the school assembly, and our headmaster, it was for the whole school, and our headmaster stood up and he was saying that school uniform had, people weren't wearing school uniform, and that girl there, you get out.
No.
And I had to stand up and walk through the middle of like 1,000 people and walk out and wait for him. But I was so upset, I didn't wait for him. I walked home, which was 3 miles. When I got home, my dad was there. He went absolutely ballistic. And I remember I was upstairs and I could hear him on the phone to the headmaster kind of shouting at him, saying, you've had letters, we've come in to visit you. What was the head of year doing? And all this.
Yeah.
My dad was mad. But rather than, kind of thinking, oh, he's on my side, it just made me feel absolutely, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think you kind of forget things like that, don't you, as you grow up?
Yeah. You try and block them out, don't you? Because it's such a traumatic experience.
It was traumatic.
You've got this space there. It's horrendous. What is sensitive head teacher, though? It's like, duh.
Yeah, I know. And, but, that was the 70s, I think, now my kids at school, that they talk to the teachers and the children getting input in different things. We never did we? It was just like, that's what you're doing.
You kind of throw into the walls.
Jill.
Yeah, it's interesting. Wow, we could talk about education all day, to be fair, couldn't we? Because there are so many things that are right with it compared to our education, but so many things that need to be altered and changed along the way. And it's just so frustrating. I mean, I have one of my best friends on the first day of school, when she was in infant school, she got told off by the head teacher. And she said, now she's a teacher. And she realizes that a lot of teachers, old school teachers, have the philosophy that you really go at someone on the first day and then it frightens everybody else. And all she was doing was fidgeting her feet. And the headmistress told her to not do that. And then because she's nervous and she's fidgety and she's like excited and, 4 years of age. And then she did it again. So this headmistress went poof. And she said, it ruined what had been, exciting and a happy time for her. It just ruined those first few years because she then became this shy, retiring, I'm going to be shouted at person.
Yeah, it's not good. It's not good, is it? I've got, examples of that as well, but I think when you're younger, teachers must have a responsibility to kind of nurture kids. And not everybody is outgoing and is has this tough outer exterior. And you should try and nurture kids a little bit more and get to know them better. Do you know what I mean? So but we've all got things in the past that
and it's how you handle it and how you move on from it, and it's things that you can't carry around with you. And I think, as you say, when you block something off, at some point later down the line, it will come back to rear its ugly head, and you've got to deal with it, and you've got to kind of unpack it and then see if you can move forward. So we're moving on then, talking about moving forward. You had scoliosis. I mean, that's horrendous to start with. So when you left school, did you go, I want to be a footballer? And then you think, oh, I can't do that because of the curvature of the spine. Or did you think, I can do anything? Or I'll go and be a secretary like everybody else? Because that's probably the same era that I was, why aren't you a typist? I don't want to be a typist.
Yeah. Well, I left school and went to do a history degree. History is one of my passions. I love history. I absolutely love history. And I did a history degree. And that was down in Portsmouth. And I stayed there and I was a bingo caller on summer holiday on Golden Goose Amusements on the pier.
Okay.
It was the most hilarious job I have ever had in my life. It's brilliant. Well, it wasn't brilliant because the hours were terrible and there was always kind of sailor ships coming in. There was a big nightclub at the end of the pier and all the sailors used to come in off the ships, play bingo, get drunk, and then have fights in the it was a very, very funny time. But then I came home and my parents were just like, well, you're not going to be slobbing around the house, you need to go out and get a job. So I basically, my dad had the paper and he put it down. He said, right, ring up and get a job. So I got a job interview in London. and it was the day of the hurricane.
I remember it well.
Remember that? And I stayed with my sister, who lived in London already, and slept through the whole thing.
Yeah,
I'd worked out how to get to Muswell Hill, where the job was.
Yeah.
And I got to the tube station. I was like,
where is everybody?
Glass all over the road. Why is the tube station shut? And then I kind of figured it out. Anyway, I had to get 4 different buses all the way to Muswell Hill. I didn't know where the hell I was. And then I got there, and I had one suit. You know how you do when you have your first job. When I got to this place called New Point Publishing, there was a tree had fallen over the front of the door, and I had to climb over the tree to bang on the door, and I was 5 hours late for the interview.
Excuse me.
They said, we're meant to have had 5 people here today. You're the only one who's turned up, so you've got the job. So,
awesome. So you showed initiative, didn't you? It's like
I did.
The others,
I was 5 hours late. So I did that for a bit, and then I went to work in media sales, in exhibitions, and then got really fed up with it, because for me it was sales, and there wasn't any growth, and it was just, there were lots of really young people in the company, and that was really fun, and we'd go out all the time, but I didn't feel like I was stretching myself, and I was bored with it, really bored. And I used to have fun, in the office, but the job just was sapping my soul.
Yeah.
So my best friend is a nurse, and I bought a ticket and went to China and travelled around China.
Like you do.
And this is the time when everyone used to wear, before, not like China is now, everyone was in the communist blue and green,
right?
And we basically used to cycle everywhere and get these buses, just great big buses to everywhere, and that was an amazing experience.
How long were you there for?
About 2 months.
Wow.
And we were very fortunate. When I left my job, because my name's Andrea as opposed to Moulding, they bought me an Oakland A's baseball hat, which had an A on it for Andrea.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sitting in the Beijing train station with this Oakland A's baseball hat on, and these 2 Chinese Americans came up and they said, "Oh, you're an Oakland A's fan." And I'm like, "No, I'm English." They were fans of the Oakland A's, and I didn't even know they were a baseball team, and they might not even be. There might be something else. But, John and Bern, and they spoke Cantonese and Mandarin. So we ended up traveling across China with people who could speak the language, and that was amazing, because we'd hire bikes and go out into the countryside, and one of the most amazing experiences, horrible but amazing, was we're in the middle of nowhere near Chengdu, I think, and there was a big wall of photographs, and it was really long, like this really long wall, and it had lots and lots and lots of photographs on it. And we went up to it, and I was saying, what's this? And it was people that had been shot by the government in that province, and it had them being carried through on the cart, and then all the different pictures of until they were shot at the end. And a guy came up, like a Chinese guy with a kind of yoke with loads of spinach or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And he just looked at me and went like, well, you can't see if you're listening, but he did the, throat cutting with his hand. And it absolutely shocked me. It really, really did. But it was, it was, I'm not glad I saw it, obviously, but I think it was very eye-opening.
That's what they say about travel, isn't it? It widens your horizons, and it helps you see things from a different perspective. And as much as we think China is approaching, the same status as the Western world, and their technology is improving, and they're supposedly improving their humanitarian standards, when the people that they're persecuting and how they're monitoring their society, that's a bit concerning, isn't it? And you have to earn points to be a good citizen in order to get access to certain things. It's the sort of thin end of the wedge, isn't it? But that's what's concerning. But at least, I mean, you've been there and you've kind of experienced that. It's a very bizarre space. So I suppose when you came back to the UK, it's like, oh, okay, it's still all normal. It must have been a bit of a culture shock to go between the two societies.
Yeah, when we went round South America, not South America, Southeast Asia, and ended up in Australia, and it was quite eye-opening, really. It wasn't great all the time, you know. I remember thinking, oh, you know, I'm traveling, I'm meant to be having like a really great experience. You know, sometimes it was, you know, because Joe wasn't with me all the time, and I had to do a lot of it on my own. You know, I went traveling on my own, and sometimes it was absolutely brilliant, and sometimes it was a little bit lonely, you know, and a little bit scary. You know, I remember going to being in Malaysia, and they pick you up from the train station in these like little minibuses, and it was late, and I remember getting into this minibus and going to this hostel, and I was the only person in the hostel. It was just me, and it made me, you know, feel a little bit vulnerable, you know, and so yeah. But I think it's important to push yourself and experience things like that.
I think it's very easy to frighten yourself that awful things are going to happen to you, and you know, when you consider the people that do make the news, you know, somebody disappeared in Australia backpacking. When you think of the thousands and thousands of people that go backpacking around Southeast Asia, you know, it's not that many that kind of hit the headlines. So your logic tells you that most of the time people are just trying to earn a living, and they're welcoming you to come into their country so that you can spend your money and maybe do some cheap labour and get some food and drink, and you can carry on. But you're one of the few people that have said to me, yeah, I went travelling and it wasn't all fun. Because most people, when they come back, they go, oh, it was amazing, this was great, and that was great. And then you start talking to them a little bit longer. It's like, oh, God, that happened. And we had a near miss then, and that was really scary. Like, wow. So there's going to be times that is...
Well, I think, you know, it's like I said to my friend's child the other day who was going to college, you know, life isn't kind of unicorns and bunnies all the time. You know, sometimes you just have to get on with it. And what do they call it? A Satori moment. Sometimes through adversity and difficulty, you learn more than when then if you know, you don't learn anything if everything's rosy all the time. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that is so true. It's like I say, you don't know how strong you are until it's like a woman is like a tea bag. You don't know how strong they are until you put them in hot water.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Brilliant. Oh, I love the fact you've been traveling, and that is a huge adventure. One I haven't been on. I didn't do the university route in the same way that I've been to university, but I did it as a mature student. Not got the same experience. It's not the same going to the student bar when you're like in your 30s. They look at you like, who's this old woman?
Well, I went back and did a social work qualification, and when I was 28, and I felt incredibly old going to the student bar. I still went.
Yeah, you got to.
Exactly.
So moving on then, obviously you've got a partner in the lovely Paddy, and together you run an organisation called Perfect Client. I'm fascinated by Perfect Client because how you come across this situation and how you deal with the situation, how you create a perfect client. I love the whole concept behind it. And we were talking earlier about what is the main thing that you would say perfect client are known for, or want them to be known for. And I thought you'd be saying, we can get you X amount of clients and we can get you this amount of leads, and you'd be, we'll help you with the marketing and we'll make sure your website is set up for it and the doing of it. But the first word you threw back at me was empathy. Oh, wow, that's interesting. So can you explain what your thought process is around why empathy is so important to find your perfect client?
Well, I think, we've all in our previous lives worked with people or companies that the phone rings and you're like, oh, I don't want to speak to them, or you know that it's just going to be a battle to get paid, and everything's a problem.
Yeah.
And I think that everybody wants to work with people that share their values, that understand them, and that have an emotional connection with them. So when we talk to, we work predominantly with accountants, and it's about understanding what's the kind of pain points for them, and also what's the pain points for their clients as well. And when I say pain points, I mean, we had one client who we interviewed, one of his best clients, and he said, before I worked with him, I was working all the hours. I wasn't seeing my kids. And since I'm working with him, I'm not only earning more, but the main thing is I get at home in time to read my child a story at night. And that's what it meant to them. And I think with Perfect Client, it's about, everybody wants to work with, some people want money, but I think most people want to enjoy their work, because you spend most of your life doing it.
Yeah.
I think it's about kind of understanding and making that emotional connection with people. And then in all of your kind of website or copy or whatever, you try and be as attractive as you can to that small group of potential ideal clients, and you almost actively push away those that they might just want you on we've all worked with people who just go, well, I'll only pay you commission, and that's all I'm prepared to do. And I'm like, well, you don't want to work with people like that. So that, I don't know, that's a bit garbled, but I think it's all about working with people you want to work with, that share the same values. And if you're helping people find their ideal client, then that ideal client has got to be perfect, not just in that they're nearby if you need that, or they've got loads of money, but they're a joy to work with. And I think that's what we try and do.
Yeah, that I love what you're saying about, we spend so much of our time at work. Why would you want to work with people that are not a joy for you? And not going to be filling your day with like, wow, that was my perfect day, I love that, I nailed it. And if you can have that feeling when you've just nailed, that's, well, a terrible expression, but in the old school world, you've nailed a client because they're going to pay you shed loads of money. But that loss of, woohoo, I'm going to earn loads of money, doesn't half wear off when that client becomes a pain in the proverbial. And in the end, it's like, I don't care how much money they're paying me. I can't. They can keep it. I don't want them. I'm going to sack them. I'm going to get rid of that client. Yeah. They're taking up too much of my time, too much of my headspace. And, I haven't seen my kids for 3 weeks because I'm just working for them all the time. And all of a sudden you're like, it's not worth the money. So there comes a level where this is what I am worth. So I know I am going to charge that because that's the value that I can bring. But that client is a great client for me because we both love football. We've both got families. We've both got things along the way that you go, I get them. I get what they're doing with their business and with their world. And I want to help them. I really want to make them successful. And when you've got that kind of space, that you want to work with them, and you think in your head, you're going, do you know what, I'd work for nothing. It would be a dream to work with these people. They're so amazing. Obviously, you're not going to work for nothing because that would be crazy. But in your mind, it's like, this was just going to be dream, perfect, as you say, perfect client. And I think when you've got your own setup right, and you know what you're about, you know your values, you know your worth, you know your product, you know what you're going to deliver, then you become a magnet for other people. Because people see that. So rather than this person going, I think I've got a product, and I think I can help you, it should be fine. Should we give it a go? I'm not going to pay any money to that sort of person. But when you've got that person that's like, we can do this, and we have done this for these people, and these are the testimonials, and we would love doing this, and this is how we work, and you would enjoy it because of this, and this. This is how long it's going to take, and this is how much it costs. The cost is irrelevant. The cost is really irrelevant. So it's there are three things that help people decide whether they're going to work for you. Can you do what you say you do? Can you do it in the time you say you're going to do it? And can you do it within budget? If you can do the first and you can do the second, they don't really care about the third. Because if you've done the first and you've done the second, job done, they are earning money because of what you've done for them. Yeah. So it's understanding those kind of things and owning that power that helps people see you, feel you, be attracted to you, your energy in the room, your energy online. Because even online, whatever you put out there, it's got energy going with it. Is it a sleepy energy? Is it an excited energy? Is it a powerful, I know what I'm talking about energy? Or is it an apology energy? Sorry, I'm here. I don't mean to interrupt. Is it okay if I just put this little post on LinkedIn for you? You want to be kind of not dominating as in dominant, but dominating as in everywhere available for them to find you and be attracted. And what you guys do at Perfect Client, I mean, I was writing, as you were telling me earlier on, it's about not judging people. It's about listening to people. And what I loved was you told me something new that I learned today. It's about Socratic questioning. So I don't know very much about Socrates. I know of Socrates, but could you explain again for those listening what Socratic questioning is? Because I think it's fascinating.
Well, I think we were talking about when I used to be a probation officer. And this
woman has had so many lifetimes, so many jobs. Good.
Well, I was a social worker, then I went to probation, and I used to work with offenders, and we used to do these cognitive behavioural group work. So we did anger management, which was called anger replacement therapy, but it was anger management basically, drink impaired drivers, and then my favourite one was enhanced thinking skills. So it basically was all these kind of chaotic 18 plus kind of low level offenders, really. They weren't serious particularly, or threatening or anything, but they were hilarious. And quite often when you were talking to them, we had to follow, we had very, very good training around questioning and listening. So a lot of people would say things, and I think I used the example of somebody comes out of prison and they're a heroin addict and they've been they've been on a treatment program, drug treatment and testing order or whatever, and they've been clean for a while, and then they're in the community, and they'd say, oh, I'm never going to touch drugs again. And you say, okay, well, that's a very good sentiment, but how are you going to prove it? Well, I just am, and you'd say, okay, well, the Socratic thing is asking them questions so that they come up with solutions themselves. You ask more kind of complex questions. So you'd say something like, I don't know, if you're going to a party and you come across somebody with some drugs, what are you going to do? Oh, well, I just won't take it. And then you'd be, okay, well, what happens when you're in that peer group and you're hanging around with those people? What happens if you're tempted? And then little by little, you get them to kind of uncover the answers. It's just a form of much deeper questioning and listening and reflecting it back and getting them to answer the question. And I think Socrates cut his ear off or something so that he would listen intently with one ear. I can't remember, something like that. I remember years ago now when I learned it, but and I think from probation I learned an awful lot about empathy and the listening skills and communication, because you're talking to people that are from every background, and also the kind of not judging, because you've got people that have they come to you and they've done terrible things. I remember going to one of the jails to do a pre-sentence report, and you get the kind of what they've done, their kind of previous convictions and all that sort of stuff. And this person had knocked an old lady over who was really old, and nicked her handbag, and she'd fallen and severely injured herself. And I kind of got there, and I had this kind of I had some preconceptions, I guess, that this guy was going to be Horrible. Yeah. Anyway, I walked into the prison. You have like these little rooms. You meet him, and the person sitting in front of me looked about 12. He was so tiny, so small. He'd had 3 strokes because his heroin addiction was so strong.
Wow.
He'd had a terrible life, and it really made me think, first of all, don't ever judge somebody, but also separate, the offence was horrendous, of course, but separate the person from the offence. And I think that's something that you can use in every aspect of your life, really, as it were.
Yeah, I love the fact that every area of your life you've managed to take some learning from it and utilize it for going forward, in whether it's your business or going forward for yourself as well. I mean, the not knowing what Socratic questioning was, I now see that I've used it a lot in the past. When, for example, if anybody wants to try this, if you're doing your pitch, when you do your 60 seconds, if you go networking and you're pitching to the room, and people, so you do it. If you do your minute, and at the end of it, somebody goes, "I don't care." Okay, so you got to say it again, but in a different way. And they go, "Still don't care." Okay, so and you say it in a different way, but you're tuning and honing everything you say in order for them to care. You want them to hear it, and it's got to touch somewhere. And they need to be able to care about what you're saying for them to really hear it, and for them to potentially want to help you. And that help you might be, I'll be a client, or it might be, I'll find you a referral, or it might be, I'll do a collaboration with you, or whatever. But it takes 3 or 4 times for you to kind of get them to go, oh, okay, a bit more interested, carry on. And you do it again. No, still don't care. And it just builds it. And all of a sudden you nail it and go, so that's what I'm going to use every time, because that's the bit, that's the goal.
I think that's the emotional connection, isn't it? Because I think we were saying earlier that self-diagnosed pain is much more powerful than than you telling somebody something. So if they diagnose it for themselves, then it's much more powerful, I think. And I think that is what you try and do. You probably do it very naturally, Jill. I think I've kind of done it well sometimes, and sometimes gone out and thought, oh, I messed that up, but it is a skill, and it's something you can definitely learn. And the emotional connection, I think, for me, I'm a great lover of stories. I think people sit up and listen if you tell them a story. Not always, but it makes it human, and it makes, they can put themselves in your shoes, as it were.
Oh, it's that old adage, isn't it, that facts tell but stories sell. It's very cynical, but it is true. People will empathise with a story. Talking about stories, not only have you written a novel, which I can't wait to read one day, and you've also written a shorter book, but you have a special character in your short book called Lollipop. And I've read this book, and I think it's absolutely brilliant. Can you tell us the story behind Lollipop and why she had to come to be?
Oh gosh, well, about when I was 52, I was diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer, and I'm sure, as you can imagine, it was really, really shocking, and absolutely floored me, to be honest. Everybody's saying to you earlier, when people have cancer, everybody says, oh, you have to fight it, and it's a battle, and but I was just a kind of gibbering, horrendous wreck. When I had my mastectomy surgery, I cried all the way down to theatre. I think I was so hysterical, and basically the whole kind of journey, I hate that word as well, your cancer journey, is also horrendous. So what happened was, I had chemo and everything, and my best friend, who's, sorry, my children are shouting in the background, my best friend who's a nurse and used to be a chemo nurse, excuse me a moment, can you just leave me for a minute? She sorry, yeah, my best friend who was a nurse, she said to me, you know what, you're very, very lucky. Sorry, excuse me. Look, go away. She said to me that you know, you're in the NHS system, you're having the best treatment you could possibly have, and there is no other treatment. You know, if you're in America, you'd have to pay for this. You've got amazing consultants. You've probably had £100,000 worth of treatment already. Everything is in place. All you have to do is follow, is get, what she said, the actual word she said was, get on the bus. And basically the words kind of really resonated with me. And once I decided just to get on the bus and to do what I was told and kind of surrender myself to it and say, well, you know, this is going to happen. I've got to have chemo. I've got to have radiotherapy. I'm going to lose my hair, blah, blah, blah. It was okay, because that was the bus and that was the route and that was the roadmap, as it were, to getting well. And it took all the responsibility away from me. And when I was actually in the system and when I was working, when I was, you know, probably losing my hair and looking horrendous and all the rest of it, I used to, you obviously get, you know, side effects and what have you, but all the material from the NHS is very, very dry. And I've never knocked the NHS, they're amazing. And Macmillan, all their pamphlets, again, they're all written because they're generic. They have to be for everybody, every age group, every ethnicity, and rightly so. They can't offend anyone, you know, but they're so medical, you know. And when you're like me and, you know, can't look at it and just want to get on the bus and do what I'm told, I found that the material that was out there didn't really meet my needs. So what I did was, after I'm obviously well now and what have you, I thought that I'd like to share that experience and some of the knowledge that I picked up and some of the tips and help that I would have found very useful, but people either didn't tell me, or I wasn't in any fit state to kind of take it in. Or I couldn't look at any of that material, you know, because it's all very medical, and you don't want to be constantly reminded that you're ill all the time. But what I tried to do was I wrote a guide what to expect from cancer diagnosis to cancer diagnosis through to chemo. And I basically created this character called Lollipop to help you stay on the bus, because stay on the bus was the big title for me, you know, the big phrase that really helped me. So I created this virtual lollipop woman who's got this great big pink head made out of a beach ball. I know I sound completely mad. So I made it out of a beach ball, and I made an outfit out of an old you know, luminous jacket and a yellow t-shirt that I had. And then I thought, well, you know, I want to talk about things that are highly embarrassing, and I work with accountants, and, you know, I want to talk about things, but I don't particularly want people knowing who I am, although of course I've blown my cover now. And so I got these hilarious green glasses that light up. And then when we were doing work on Perfect Client, we got this software for doing videos, and we were using it for testimonials and what have you. But I started creating these completely out there videos. And so I've created a YouTube channel. I've got a Facebook group. I've created all these videos, and I've written this guide that people can download. And basically I'm going to kind of try and develop that, and that's, people can download the guide. Then I want to have a kind of Facebook community, and it's aimed at people like me, people who, you know, couldn't Google it, couldn't read material, but I want people to want to pick it up, to watch the videos. So I've got one that's called How Having Chemo Turns You into a Dinosaur. And I've got all these, I don't know if you've seen it, Jill, but it's got all these kind of dinosaurs with black nails and watery eyes and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Just so it gets the information across, but it hopefully makes people laugh as opposed to,
Yeah. And half the thing I would imagine is the fear of the unknown. And if you're putting in place all these things that this might happen, this might happen, this might happen, you're not doing the shock horror stuff.
Yeah.
But you're doing that amusing, oh, ha, this might, your dinosaurs and your nails might go black, and so, oh, okay, interesting. But it's like you're still giving them the information so that when it happens, you're not like, oh my God, panic, because that fear of the unknown is worse than the actual reality half the time, isn't it? So, Andrea, I don't know if you know, but our signal is going slightly, so there is a bit of a time delay in our conversation. So I'm going to take an opportunity, because we've done most of this really well with the signal that we've had, and we're almost up to an hour. So I'm going to take an opportunity to say thank you for what you've shared with us so far. Also to ask if anybody wants to talk to you about Perfect Client and creating their perfect client, or if possibly they know an accountant that might need to find a perfect client, what's the best way of contacting you?
Well, if you just send me a message on LinkedIn or through Collaboration Global, or I can give you my phone number if that would help.
Fabulous. Well, if we do, Andrea at perfectclient.co.uk is probably a first point of call. LinkedIn for sure, and it's Andrea, Andrea Moulding. Just
that's
checking.
right, yeah.
Can't be many of you out there. And have a chat with her on LinkedIn. Or of course, if you want to meet Andrea face to face, then we have our monthly guest sessions at Collaboration Global, and that's on the last Tuesday of the month. And you can come find us on Eventbrite and just look for Collaboration Global and click the link, and you can book in, or you can find us on our website, which is collaborationglobal.org. So I'm going to round up and say thank you so much. There is so much more that we could talk about, honestly. The notes that I've been making today, well done on Lollipop. I like to see much more of her. If anybody wants to, who's going through cancer and is struggling, please go and look at the Facebook group. What's it called? Stay on the Bus. Is that what it's called?
Stay on the Bus. But by all means, if you want to talk to someone, if you're happy to and you want to, I'm happy to speak to anybody who's had that diagnosis, because it's it's nice to speak to someone who isn't family. Yes.
And you've been there and you've done that and you've come out the other side, and you know how to stay on that bus. So that's brilliant. Thank you for that, Andrea. And thank you for joining me today. It's been an absolute joy. Is there anything you wanted to say just to round up and finish off?
All I would say is that, first of all, I apologise for my children coming in halfway through the call.
There's no worries.
Even though I've got a sign on the door. Also, anybody who's thinking of joining Collaboration Global, I do think that, it is an amazing organisation, and that it's a very safe place to talk about things. And I was just saying to Jill beforehand, I hadn't talked about cancer at all, and I was too scared to kind of show you this lollipop thing. So, it makes you brave as well when you've got people around you who are kind of in your corner. So thank you.
You're very welcome. And it's hopefully this recording is carried on, but we are losing you a little bit now as well. So fingers crossed this all comes through. But if not, we'll do it all over again, Andrea. That's fine. Thank you very much for joining me today, and we'll see you soon.